Japan. When you think of this country, you think of Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, perhaps snowbound Hokkaido in the north, perhaps subtropical Kyushu in the south. Shikoku, Japan's fourth largest island, probably doesn't come to mind at all. And that is precisely the point. An island of 18,800 square kilometers, 100 kilometers from Osaka, right in the middle of the country's economic core. Stand on the mainland shore, and you can see Shikoku with the naked eye. And yet, in 1960, about 6 million people lived there. Today, 3.5 million. Almost half have gone. Every year, the island loses more people. In some villages, half the houses stand empty. How did this happen to an island sitting at the very center of Japan? And what exactly is hiding behind the empty houses and the overgrown roads? Today, the history and the secrets of Shikoku. Shikoku translates literally as 4 provinces: Awa, Tosa, Sanuki, and Iyo. 4 separate worlds on a single island, divided by mountain ranges so completely that traveling from one province to another was easier by sea than by land. It was exactly this internal fragmentation that shaped the island's entire history. The Shikoku Mountains, crowned by Mount Ishizuchi at 1,982 meters, cut the island crossways from east to west. To the north, a narrow strip along the inland sea, calm, almost Mediterranean. To the south, the open Pacific, with monsoon rains and typhoons. Shikoku was never an economic center. It was a political instrument. For centuries, Japan's rulers used it as a place to exile inconvenient people, close enough to keep an eye on, far enough to isolate. The most famous exile was the Emperor Sutoku, sent here in the 12th century after losing a struggle for power. He spent the rest of his life in isolation, and in Japanese folk tradition, he became one of the 3 most fearsome, vengeful spirits in the country's mythology. The island was a cage, but it was also a refuge. This is where everyone came who wanted to disappear. Deep in the mountains of Tokushima, where the gorge of the Iya River plunges hundreds of meters down to emerald green water, a valley. It is hard to reach even now. 1,000 years ago, it was all but unreachable, which is exactly why, at the end of the 12th century, the samurai of the Taira clan came here. In 1185, the Taira were defeated in the Genpei War and took shelter deep inside Shikoku. The Iya Valley became their hiding place. To cross the river, and at the same time, to be able to cut off anyone pursuing them, they built bridges out of vine, the Kazurabashi. The design was deliberately fragile. One blow to the vines, and the bridge would collapse into the river, blocking the pursuit. There were once 13 such bridges in the valley. Today, there are 3. The main one is the Iya Kazurabashi, 45 meters long, 2 meters wide, hanging 14 meters above the river. Every 3 years, it is rebuilt completely from fresh actinidia vine, around 6 tons of it. Inside, for safety, steel cables are hidden. From the outside, it looks exactly as it did 800 years ago. It is recognized as an important intangible cultural property of Japan. The second and third bridges are in the far part of the valley, Oku-iya. They are known as the Husband Bridge and the Wife Bridge. The 2 hang side by side above the river. Next to them is the yaen, a hand-hauled cable car once used to carry goods across the water. According to an alternative version, the bridges were first built by the Buddhist monk Kobo Daishi, founder of the Shingon school of Buddhism. Both legends live on side by side. Who came first has never been established. In the 9th century, the monk Kukai, known after his death as Kobo Daishi, walked the island of Shikoku and, by tradition, meditated in 88 places. The places became sacred. Temples were later raised on each of them. Today, those 88 temples are linked by a route 1,200 kilometers long, the Shikoku Henro. It is one of the most significant Buddhist pilgrimages in the world, and the only major circular route that closes back on itself. The pilgrims, the Henro, wear white robes and broad conical hats. They carry a staff that represents Kukai himself. By tradition, the monk accompanies every walker for the whole of the journey. The inscription on the staff reads, "We too walk together." Walking the full route takes 30 to 60 days. Some pilgrims cycle or drive. Some complete the circuit again and again. The best-known case is the monk Junsei Fukuda, who finished it 278 times. The whole economy of the island around the pilgrimage is unlike anything else. The people of Shikoku have historically offered pilgrims osetai, help given freely, food, a bed for the night, money. Accepting it does not put you in anyone's debt. It is part of the tradition. Why 88? In Buddhist philosophy, that is the number of human passions and attachments. To walk the circle is to be symbolically freed of all 88. The route has been on UNESCO's tentative list since 2015. Deep in the Iya Valley, in the village of Nagoro, a few dozen residents. But count everyone who lives there, and the number is about 150. The rest are dolls. A resident named Tsukimi Ayano began making them in 2003, at first as scarecrows for the vegetable patch, then as likenesses of the neighbors who had left. A teacher in an empty school, a farmer in a field, customers in a shop that has closed, a couple sitting at a bus stop. Every figure is a particular person Ayano once knew. Nagoro has become a symbol of Japan's demographic crisis in general, and of Shikoku's in particular. A documentary about the village is screened at international festivals. Journalists from all over the world come to photograph the empty houses and their straw-stuffed inhabitants. Ayano doesn't do it out of sentimentality. It is her way of holding on to the memory of what this place used to be, of the people who lived here. The figures stand there in winter too, under the snow. The village stays open to visitors. The southern half of Shikoku, vast and almost empty of people. Kochi Prefecture takes up a third of the island's area and has the lowest population density of any prefecture in Japan. Around 100 people per square kilometer. For Japan, that is practically a desert. The reason is the mountains. The Shikoku Range forms a barrier on the southern side of the island against the rain clouds coming off the Pacific. Every year, thousands of millimeters of rain fall here, among the highest figures in the country. The rivers run full and powerful. The greatest of them is the Shimanto, Japan's last clear river, as it is officially called. The only major river in the country with no dams on its main channel and no industrial discharge. It is precisely the absence of progress that has kept it as it was. Kochi is also famous for Sakamoto Ryoma, the most romanticized reformer of the Meiji era. He was born here in 1836. His ideas helped to bring down the shogunate and open Japan to the world. He became a symbol of the fact that the transformation of the country began not in Tokyo, but on the periphery, on an island that would then turn out to be surplus to the needs of the new Japanese economy. In 1988, the Great Seto Bridge opened, 13.5 kilometers linking Shikoku to Honshu, the first direct road and rail connection to the main island. The end of centuries of isolation. But the opposite happened. The bridge that was meant to draw people to Shikoku made it easier for them to leave. Young people, who had previously stayed put because crossing was such a hassle, could now move easily to Osaka or Hiroshima, and they left. This is a classic effect, well known to urban planners. Improving the connection to a wealthier center often accelerates the emptying out of the periphery. People travel towards the work, not away from it. More than 1 trillion yen was spent building the 3 bridge routes between Shikoku and Honshu. The expected economic growth never came. Shikoku still has no high-speed Shinkansen, the only one of the country's 4 main islands without it. Technically, it is possible. Economically, it can't be justified, because there simply aren't enough people. Japan has an official register, the Akiya Bank, the Bank of Empty Houses. Local councils list abandoned buildings there. Some go for a token price, with renovation subsidies thrown in. On Shikoku, such houses are everywhere. In some villages, up to half the housing stock stands empty. Traditional Japanese homes, timber-framed, with gardens and mountain views. Some of them are 200 years old. So why does nobody take them? There are several reasons. Traditional houses need expensive work. They have no modern insulation or damp-proofing, and no central heating. Many are not formally registered because previous owners never processed the inheritance, which creates legal complications. The social infrastructure, schools, hospitals, shops, has already closed in most of these villages. In 2023, the Japanese government introduced new incentives, tax breaks, renovation grants, programs for digital nomads. Several hundred foreigners and young Japanese have moved to the island since. But that's several hundred, and several thousand a year are leaving. Shikoku is not vanishing quietly. The island is actively looking for a new identity. The Henro pilgrimage route is drawing more and more foreign visitors, especially since it went onto UNESCO's tentative list in 2015. Europeans, Americans, and Koreans walk the island for weeks at a time. Naoshima, a tiny island in the inland sea, administratively part of Kagawa, has been turned into one of the best-known open-air art parks in the world. The architect, Tadao Ando, designed the Benesse House Museum here, along with the underground Chichu Art Museum, holding works by Claude Monet and James Turrell. Over the past decade, the Setouchi region has drawn millions of visitors. Rural tourism is growing on Shikoku. Farm trails, traditional crafts, indigo dyeing, the making of washi, traditional Japanese paper from Tosa province, and a distinctive regional cuisine, yuzu, katsuo no tataki, and sanuki udon from Kagawa. In 2018, the town of Ozu in Ehime Prefecture launched a public-private partnership with a local bank and 2 management companies. Empty historic houses are being turned into boutique hotels, restaurants, and workshops. By 2023, the historic center of Ozu had become one of the most frequently cited examples of a successfully revived Japanese country town. Shikoku is a mirror held up to Japan, and at the same time, a mirror of what happens to any place when the economy and the demographics move one way and the people move another. There were samurai in exile here, a monk who walked 1,200 kilometers and did not stop, a woman who repopulated an emptied village with people made of straw. The island isn't disappearing, it's changing, more slowly than anyone would like, differently from how it was planned. But it's still here. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.